All right, so you wanted to dive into Trump's new watch business. Buckle up, because this one gets a little wild.
Yeah.
We're talking Swiss watches, six-figure price tags, and a daycare center in Wyoming. It's a lot to unpack.
It's definitely intriguing, to say the least.
So you're my go-to for all things business and politics. What was your first reaction when you started digging into this?
Well, let's just say my curiosity was piqued. This isn't your typical celebrity endorsement.
Right.
We're talking LLC's registered agents, Wyoming's corporate structure. It's a crash course in legal maneuvering, whether it's intentional or not.
So we're not just talking about watches here. This feels bigger. Like we're at the intersection of politics, luxury branding, and maybe some strategic business decisions.
Absolutely. And to understand it, we need to go back to the promotional video. Imagine Trump in a power suit sitting at a massive desk signing some important-looking document.
Okay.
And then, bam, close up on the wrist, a gleaming gold watch.
Showing it off.
They're really playing up this image of luxury and exclusivity.
And speaking of luxury, let's talk about those price tags. They range from affordable at $499.
Affordable is a very relative term.
To a cool $100,000 for their top-of-the-line tourbillon. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a walking watch encyclopedia. What exactly goes into a $100,000 watch?
Think of a tourbillon like the engine in a high-end sports car. Incredibly complex, meticulously crafted as status symbol. It's a very niche market for sure.
Which makes you wonder who they're targeting with that price point.
Right.
But before we go there, let's talk about where these luxury watches are supposedly coming from a nondescript shopping center in Sheridan, Wyoming.
Yeah, Sheridan, Wyoming. Not exactly the watchmaking capital of the world.
So CNN decided to do a little digging into TheBestWatchesonEarth LLC.
Yeah.
The company behind these timepieces, and I don't think they were expecting to find a daycare center at that address.
You've got to be kidding me, a daycare center.
That's what they found.
So is Trump running a watchmaking empire out of a daycare center?
Or did someone forget to update their contact info? It's a little suspicious.
That's where Wyoming's reputation for these privacy-focused businesses comes into play.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the deal with Wyoming's corporate laws?
So Wyoming is known for being very business-friendly, particularly when it comes to LLCs or limited liability corporations. These laws provide a lot of anonymity for business owners.
And this is where those registered agents come in.
Exactly. A registered agent is like a middleman between a company and the state. They handle official mail, legal documents, that kind of thing. The interesting thing is they don't actually need any real involvement in the company's operations.
So they're like a legal buffer.
Precisely.
So in this case, the registered agent for TheBestWatchesonEarth LLC is a company run by an Andrew Pierce. What's the significance of that?
Well, here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Pierce's company is listed as the registered agent for dozens of businesses at that same Wyoming address.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? One of them is selling Trump-branded sneakers.
Hold on. We've got Trump watches, Trump sneakers, all supposedly operating from this random Wyoming address, all using the same registered agent to shield the actual owners. This is starting to sound like a political thriller or something.
It's definitely a tangled web. And believe it or not, it gets even wilder.
Okay, so let's say you're ready to shell out $100,000 for this exclusive Trump tourbillon. You go to the website and bam, right there in plain sight are some interesting disclaimers.
Disclaimers you definitely don't want to just scroll past.
Right.
The Trump Watches website very clearly states that the watches are not designed, manufactured, distributed, or sold by Donald J. Trump, the Trump Organization, or any of their respective affiliates or principals.
Hold on. They're putting his name all over these watches, using his image to sell them, but he's not actually involved in making or selling them.
That's what the disclaimer says.
Wow.
And there's more. Another disclaimer says that the images on the website are just for illustrative purposes. They may not even match the final product you get.
So you might not even be getting what you see in the ads. That's kind of shady.
And remember how CNN was trying to find out who's behind this whole operation?
Ending up at that Wyoming daycare center.
Exactly. Well, they reached out to Trump's campaign and the Trump Organization with a whole list of questions about this watch business.
Like what?
Who's running it? How'd this deal even happen? Did they even check these people out before they slapped Trump's name on their product?
Good questions. And what'd they say?
Nothing, crickets. Total silence.
That's kind of weird, right?
To say the least.
So we've got this lack of transparency about the product, no comment from Trump's team, and this whole Wyoming LLC thing designed to keep the real players hidden. Plus, those FDA warnings about that male enhancement honey tied to the same registered agent. It's a lot.
It definitely raises some red flag. Now, to be clear, There's no evidence of anything illegal here.
Right.
But it makes you wonder about the ethics of it all.
Mm.
Attorney Mark Pierce, whose company is the registered agent for all this, he put it perfectly. Before spending $100,000 on a watch, they should know who they're buying it from.
He's got a point. Speaking of knowing what you're buying, let's talk about what the watch enthusiasts are saying about all this. This isn't just about business and legal stuff. It's about the actual watches.
Exactly. And the watch community has not been shy about sharing their opinions. Let's just say that.
Give me the highlights.
Well, Oisin O'Malley and Tim Mosso, these are big names in the luxury watch world. They both reviewed these Trump watches, and let's just say they were underwhelmed.
What didn't they like?
Well, O'Malley called the $800 gold-plated line cheap stuff.
Ouch. Not exactly a ringing endorsement.
And the $100,000 tourbillon, he called it basic for that price. And he said it looked like it was designed on a computer.
Double ouch. What about Mosso?
He had some interesting points. He pointed out that the website doesn't even tell you basic things like the size of the watches.
Really?
Yeah, not exactly what you'd expect from a luxury watch brand. Especially when they're trying to sell a $100,000 watch.
That's just weird.
Right. And get this, the $100,000 model isn't even water resistant.
You're kidding. A $100,000 watch that you can't get wet? That's like buying a Ferrari that can't go above 30 miles an hour.
It's pretty baffling. Mosso even said he thinks they're only going to make a handful of those expensive models. So it makes you wonder who they're even making them for.
It's all just bizarre.
To put it mildly, it seems like everyone in the watch world agrees. These Trump watches are way overpriced, not that impressive, and shrouded in this unnecessary veil of secrecy.
So we started with luxury watches, stumbled into this whole world of Wyoming LLCs, and honestly found more head-scratchers than answers.
Yeah, this one was a doozy.
So if our listener takes away one thing from all this, what should it be?
I think it's a good reminder that things aren't always what they seem. Whether you're buying a watch or deciding who to vote for, you gotta know who you're dealing with. That's key.
Transparency matters. It's easy to get caught up in a name, a brand, a promise of something exclusive. But then you have this whole situation with the Trump watches the Wyoming thing, the radio silence from Trump and his people. It makes you think twice.
It really does. And you know what I find interesting? This whole thing kind of fits a pattern with Trump's businesses.
How so?
Well, remember those other ventures we talked about, like the Trump steaks, Trump vodka?
Oh, yeah. Those didn't exactly set the world on fire.
Exactly. A lot of them flopped.
Yeah.
And while we can't predict the future, who knows? Maybe these Trump watches will be a huge hit.
Maybe.
But the lack of transparency, the way they're running things, it's definitely eyebrow-raising.
It's like there's this pattern of him slapping his name on stuff that doesn't quite live up to the hype.
It's an interesting observation, for sure. And I think it's worth thinking about.
Definitely. At the end of the day, this wasn't just about watches, was it?
Not at all. It's about understanding branding transparency, looking past the surface to see what's really going on. And that's important, whether we're talking about a $100,000 watch or something with even bigger stakes.
A good reminder for all of us to be smart shoppers and informed citizens.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we resurface?
Just this. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Do your research, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Words to live by. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the curious case of the Trump watches in the Wyoming Daycare Center. Until next time, happy diving.